You know, it's one of those sports cliches that it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Playoff hockey, you have to beat a team 4 times. And the Walleye are going to have to beat Cincinnati 9 times over the course of this season to get the job done and move on to round 3 of the Kelly Cup playoffs. Happy to have Claire Dow, Walleye analyst, with us in studio before the series begins tomorrow night. What's changed in between the regular season series with the Cyclones and when we're going to see them tomorrow night? It was pretty even every time we saw them face off.
It was, and not to add to the cliche, but it is 2 totally different teams facing off against each other. As you well know, looking at the Walleye roster, a lot of guys came back. We had 7 total on Grand Rapids AHL contracts come back to rejoin the Toledo Walleye for this playoff push. Cincinnati had a handful coming back as well. And that's what's so neat about the ECHL is there are so many different bodies and such different personnel game in and game out. When you play a team back in November at the beginning of the season and then you shift to playoff hockey, it's kind of totally different rosters. And Toledo did fare really well against the Cyclones in their last 5. They were 3-1-1 in their last 5 regular season matchups against Cincinnati. So I'm excited to see what both teams bring to the ice tomorrow.
One of the things that Dan Watson touched on when we talked to him at practice is the idea of rest versus rust. There is something to be said for having a little bit of rest if you're the Walleye, but as far as momentum goes, Cincinnati does have a red-hot goaltender.
Beck Warm has been playing fairly well for the Cincinnati Cyclones.
It's an understatement.
Yeah, very much an understatement. There were a couple of outlier contests against Fort Wayne, a couple of shutouts for the Comets that went in their favor, but he has been outstanding for Cincinnati. When Toledo played him earlier this season, he went 5-2-0 against the Walleye. So he is very sharp in net against this Toledo Walleye squad. He's also saved 226 of the 238 shots that he faced in those 7 games against the Fort Wayne Comets.
The play between the pipes for Toledo's been really good too. With Sebastian Kosa, John Letherman, that doesn't always work with teams. Why is that goaltending tandem working for Toledo?
I think part of it is just the personnel. The characters of the 2 gentlemen that are kind of going back and forth. They both care so much about this team and about each other and want each other to do well. But in this case, both of them know that they're making each other better, they're making the team better, and they're both getting great opportunities to showcase their skills. And bonus for Coach Watson and company, you've got fresh legs if you need it. And so if one goaltender is maybe not having the greatest night, you can swap him out with somebody else. And they are both so outstanding. I mean, my gosh, John Letherman is the reigning ECHL Goaltender of the Year, the Nick Vitucci Award. He's the first Toledo Walleye player to earn that award. So it's kind of a Sophie's choice, if you will, between goaltenders for Coach Watson.
The team brings this up. You and Matt Melzak bring this up when we air the games home and away live on BCSN, but it can't be talked about enough, the idea of special teams. This is what's winning the Walleye games.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at game 1 against Indy, nothing but special teams goals were scored for both teams, and Toledo ended up coming out on top there. Toledo currently in the playoff season is leading the league in power play and they're 2nd in penalty kill. I mean, my gosh, they scored 2 shorthanded goals against Indianapolis. They scored 4 all season long. It's like free throws in a basketball game. If the other team is going to commit a penalty or make a little mistake, you want to exploit that and score when you can, and then on the flip side, hold them off if they've got a man up.
It's tough to distill a best of 7 into something so concise, but the Walleye will win this series if what? If
they play their hockey. That's something in the post-game interviews with Coach Watson and the players they've all hit on, and even the intermission reports. If they stay calm, play confident, and play Toledo Walleye hockey, they're a very tough team to beat, and hopefully they'll be a team that's playing in early June, fingers crossed.
And we'll have those games beginning tomorrow night right here. You can listen to Claire and Matt Melzak on the call. We always love having you back here.
It's a fun time to get to come back to Sports Nightly. And of course, stay tuned after the games for extended coverage each and every evening at 10:30.